Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at NECA's Terminator 2 White Hot T-1000, part of their Kenner tribute line. So this is an homage to one of what is probably the least practical gimmicks we ever got out of the 90s, which is temperature-based color-changing figures. What a waste of a gimmick. And I'm saying that with the most nostalgia possible. I mean, this is going right back to when I was a kid, so I love it. But boy, was that such a silly gimmick. I don't quite get why they did it. But they did it, and now NECA's done it, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at this figure. So let's get him off the stand and take a closer look. Okay, now before we even get into the height or anything else, I just want to take a quick minute to show you this is as dark as he gets. This is fresh out of the freezer. You can see he's a little bit glistening in some places. That is from the frost melting. I wanted to make sure you could see it when it's as cold as you can get it, so that you can see it's a very dark navy blue, and as you can tell, my hand has started to already warm it up. Before anything else, this is as cold as it gets. It's frozen and it's dark. And do not freeze a figure and then try to play with it. By the way, quick side note, you have a very good chance of breaking something. So again, it's not a practical thing, but you don't have to have it frozen to keep it dark. So you can just leave it like room temperature, slightly cold, and you'll be okay. But that's frozen, that's as dark as it's gonna get. Now before we get into even the measurements, I wanna just take a quick look at the packaging. You already saw the front, very retro looking. The back is also still very retro looking, very nice. And okay, that's enough of that. All right, let's get into the height measurements. He stands an unsurprising 6 3/4 inches, just a little bit above that, which makes him very close to, let's say, 17.25 centimeters. And this is the same T-1000 figure we got before, just in temperature, thermal reactive plastic. I don't know if that's the official term, but we're gonna call it that. And it does definitely change colors. You can see the fingertips are already changing. The parts where I'm touching are already changing. This is what room temperature looks like, by the way. That's his alternate hand. It's a lot more of like a periwinkle, like a deep dark periwinkle mixed with the blue. And I'll show you pictures of what he looks like when he's hot, but I don't want to get it out and like show you him heating up, because it does take a little while to actually get him very warm. But I can get him away from the cold, at least kind of quickly, just with a little bit of body heat. You can see he's starting to change a little bit there, but we'll go ahead and just save the light coloring for either the very end of the video or the photos. But the color changing does work. As you can see, it works very well. I know I said I'd just show you at the end, but I felt like I should just show you now. I've got this guy warmed up, and he is very light compared to what he was before, and he is a gummy mess. Not sticky gummy, but just like everything feels soft and squishy kind of. So you can see he's a little floppy, and like I said, temperature and joints especially, not a good combination for plastic, but it is what it's supposed to be, so I can't fault it too much. But at least now you can see that's what he looks like. I didn't want to go crazy with it, so you might be able to get him a little bit hotter to change the color just a little bit more, but you can see he's already really floppy, and any more heat than this, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. But you get a good idea from there, so there you go. Okay, so overall aesthetics on this guy, he's solid molded plastic with just the littlest tiny details painted in, like the eyes, the buttons, the badge, and the nameplate. So it is what it's supposed to be, so I can't really fault it, but it's also nothing special. So I'm just going to say the aesthetics are a 7 out of 10. You know, nothing crazy here, but it is what it is. Now, as far as accessories go, it's okay. We do have his pistol, which is molded in solid black. It will not react to the temperature, so just a standard pistol. We have the 2 hands that come on him, obviously, and then we have 1 hand to swap out on the right side to hold the pistol. And then we have interchangeable lower arms, which have these painted metal hooks. The plastic is the the temperature reactive plastic, but the arms are obviously painted for the most part, so you won't notice too much there. That's it for accessories. We do have this feature, which is a holdover from the original release, where he comes in half, but that's not meant to be used here, so just ignore it. It's easily ignored, so nothing there. So as far as accessories go, yeah, we'll give him another 7 out of 10. Interchangeable arms and interchangeable hand and a gun, that's fine. That's okay. And now we come down to the articulation, and I trust that he has sufficiently thawed such that I won't break anything. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. We do have a ball peg for the neck, not the craziest range. You're mostly just going to be swiveling this guy with a little bit of attitude, which is probably enough, because he was very good at conveying attitude in his acting performance, so that's appropriate, I guess. For For the shoulders, we have a swivel hinge. So you have your hinge right here, and then you have your swivel. Not the best, but it'll get the job done. One thing I also want to mention, this plastic, or at least the way they implemented it on this guy, his joints are not especially tight. And freezing and warming a figure just wreaks havoc on joint tolerances. So don't get this guy expecting that it's gonna be like the most durable thing ever in terms of joints or just survivability. You're gonna end up with problems if you're gonna spend a lot of time heating and warming this guy. And do not, I repeat, do not put him in boiling water. That is very bad for plastic. Or at least potentially, it's not necessarily always going to be, but hair dryer / hot tap water is more than sufficient to warm him up. Do not boil. But yeah, temperature is not a good thing to screw with on plastic. That's why this is not a great gimmick, but I definitely appreciate that NECA went ahead and did it anyway. Okay, so for the elbow, we have a little bit better than 90. That's okay. We have our swivel right there. And then for the wrists, they're just ball pegs. And you're getting a really good example now of the color changing on the lower arms. So that's kind of cool. The feet are doing it too. The whole body looks like that. One thing that's not great, and you will see this at the end, and there's nothing they could really do about it, but the really thin plastic for the crotch and the belt, that gets a lot lighter colored than the rest of the figure. So it kind of stands out, but there's nothing they could do about that. So we do have a waist swivel here. For the hips, we do have ball hinges. You're not going to really need to put them in the craziest of poses, but you can at least go that far, which is better than most Marvel Legends, including Spider-Man figures, so that's pretty good. Going forward, you do have to stretch his crotch piece out a little bit, so I don't know how much I recommend that, but you could definitely put him in like a running pose or something like that if you wanted to. They do go back a little bit as well, and you have a thigh swivel. For the knee, we have another swivel hinge, a little bit less than 90 degrees, plus of course we have some rotation, which isn't really useful, and then for the ankle, we just have a ball peg, which is almost completely useless. So posing this guy is mostly just going to be him standing there holding a gun or his claw hands. That's about it, and that's, I think, okay. I don't think anybody's really expecting to do too much more with this guy, but that's okay. So we'll just leave it at that. For articulation, I guess 6 out of 10. He's not really meant to be posed very much, so it's not like in the standards, in their typical standards, he's not impressive. But he's not supposed to be. He doesn't have what you would expect on most figures, but he does do what he's supposed to do very well. So my overall verdict on this guy, again, you guys should keep in mind, even though most of my rating system for the final verdict is kind of like a joke, I still keep it relatively useful for you. And you have to also consider that the rating system is based on what the figure is supposed to be. This is why I didn't used to do rating systems, because they're completely dependent on what you're rating. But in this case, he does what he's supposed to do very well. You can see even his butt cheeks are starting to warm up there. So I'm going to give him, for what he's supposed to be, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. I think they did a really good job with it. They nailed the thermoplastic very nicely. And the rest of it is at least up to snuff, so that's fine. I think he's a good release. I think you're going to appreciate it if you grew up in the 90s, or especially if you owned the original. I never did, but I did own the original of some of the other ones, so I definitely appreciate this kind of thing. So I do recommend it, but you have to be aware of the things I mentioned, because he's not your typical action figure. So that'll do it, guys. If you are into NECA stuff, do check out my NECA playlist. I've reviewed a ton of their figures, so plenty of stuff for you to check out there. And if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you did not like this video, well, it's too late. You already watched it, and I'm okay with that. And then lastly, of course, I have to mention, if you haven't subscribed, you probably should, because I do have new videos up just about every single day with thousands of reviews already on the channel. And like I said, more coming almost daily. Plenty of stuff for you to check out there, so please do that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.